Hello, welcome. Today we'll be taking a look at Warhammer RP on Roll20 side that we are playing 2 days ago. It is because some people had questions about how the game works, and when the session actually is active, there's no time to interact with the chat, so might be better to just get this out of the way. So let me just quickly do it so I can see my own chat and everything. And we will add this to the screen. Okay, so you can see that the game is played in browser and it doesn't require any program to be run. You just open the Roll20 site, log in, and then go into the game itself. And then you'll be able to log in into the game and launch the game, after which you will be able to see thing that I want them to see, which is, for example, I drop this banner on this map. This means that players will be able to see this map. And how it works is each player has their own token in the game. Their token is this square thing, this round thing. So this would be Finboy's token, this would be Death's Head's token, this is Roommate's token, and this is Baron's token. There are also enemies in the game, for example this Simple Bandit. And when I click on each token, you can see in the top, these are all the actions that the token that I selected can perform. For example, they can roll to hit, they can reload their weapon, they can commit a ranged or melee attack, grapple or death's door, and they can roll various tables as well. But for the most part, the most important thing to note is under each token there are 3 bars, and these bars represent the most crucial information. The blue bar is their action points, the gray bar is the character's armor, which subtracts damage, so if they have more armor than the incoming damage, they will not take any. And the green bar is their HP. So if I take this bandit and say that he is in melee with Death's Head, so they would be taking turns, and the turns are determined by the turn order here. So they would first have to roll on initiative. Let's say Death's Head rolled and he got 19 on initiative, while the bandit got 17. So if we reshuffle, now Death's Head would be playing first. So he would have 5 action points to play with, so he would roll to hit first. This one would be a miss, so let's try it again. And this is a miss as well. So after each attack you would subtract points, and how it works is the first attack costs 2 AP, and each attack after that costs +1, so the second one would cost 3, and the third one would cost him 4, and so forth. So in this case he wouldn't have any actions left, so he would have to skip the turn. Now the bandit would be playing. Roll to hit. This one would be a hit, so let's apply melee damage. In this case it would do 4 damage. And you can see the roll there. When I hover over the number, it will actually tell you the calculation. So in damage it calculates, hey Harry, welcome. It calculates 1d4, and then it will do, for each 2 points of strength that a character has, it will add +1 damage. And then it will do weapon strength, which is the weapon's armor, weapon's attack stat. The melee weapons attack stat, ranged weapons cannot be used in melee. And then it would compare it to the enemy armor. No, and I have no interest in it. I saw the character sheet and it looked like not at all what I imagined would be the best system for it. So the bandit would subtract the action points as well, so you would be at 3 left. So this is how the combat works. And each, in this case, we would apply 4 points of damage to Death's Head. And if your character loses health, they actually need to refill it, and there are several ways to do it, but each of them requires an item. So you can see when I switch to the journal tab, there are actually, these are all quests. Most of these things, some of them might not be available to players yet, but basically these are the players' inventories and skills. So each player has a name, and under it is their relevant tab. So if you take a look at that's head, this is his character, and he has attributes. So the attributes are strength, constitution, dexterity, willpower, and charisma. These are the basic things that he can increase with level ups, and level ups will give him a relevant amount of free attribute points to distribute. And then they are reflected in other stats that are below this, so that would be hit points, action points, armor, weapon strength, ranged capability. Weapon strength is the melee damage of a weapon. Ranged capability is ranged damage capability of a weapon, so damage. And sanity, initiative, accuracy, and social. Social is affected by charisma, while accuracy is affected by strength and dexterity, and initiative is affected by dexterity. And they also have abilities. This is their basic actions, what they can do. Since Rusty does not have any ranged weapon, he only has option to melee attack or grapple an enemy. Let's take a look at his inventory. This is how his inventory is looking like. You can see that he has his own purse with gems and crowns. Then he has 2 weapon sets, like in most RPGs, that you can switch between those two in combat for 1 action point. So in his first weapon set, he has Apprentice's Cracked Iron Warhammer. It is 2-handed weapon, and it has +2 weapon strength, which means 2 damage. It requires 1 strength to wield. This is his basic starting weapon. His offhand is blocked because it is 2-handed weapon. And under it, you can see his second set is free. He doesn't have anything equipped there currently. And then there are equipped items, and these are armor items. So each like body part has their own equipment slot, like helmet. In case of mages or even warrior priest, if he equips any helmet that would be made from metal, it will actually disable his ability to cast spells. So that's not great. Then he has chest armor. In this case, he has equipped Ragged Sigmarite Apprentice Robe. It is +1 armor. Then he has leather bracers for wrists. And leg slot are cloth trousers. And then he has ragged treble boots. They can be repaired to offer more armor if the item is damaged, which means it is ragged or dull or blunt or something like that. It will need to be repaired for it to function properly. Then he has a trinket slot. In this case, he has Hammer of Sigmar pendant. It gives him +1 will. And then he has 3 ring slots. Below that, you have the loot bag for each character. Each character can carry 10 items of loot in their inventory, and they can then sell it in town or do whatever they wish with it. But to carry more, they would need more strength or an item that expands the inventory. And then we'll take a look at XP. So this is how experience is calculated. So there are no levels. It is just, this is his current XP. Currently he has 80 points. And then level up milestones. So when he reaches 250 experience, it will give him 6 attribute points and 1 skill point. And it will just continue. So the XP points will not be subtracted. And then if he reaches 600, it will unlock the next tier and so forth. So at level 5, he would get 2 skill points per level. Then we can take a look at skills. This is quite expansive list. I'm not going to read everything that's in here. I will post it in Discord for anyone interested, but it's basically anything that you can unlock. Each of them has a requirement. So melee proficiency gives +1 melee damage on roll. So this will be +1 weapon strength on each attack for this character, and it requires to have 5 strength and 1 skill point per tier. It can be upgraded 3 times. There are various skills, reloading drill, bloodlust, even special skills like active combat skills that actually unlock different kinds of attacks. Like for example, pommel strike can use melee attack 5 for 5 AP that wounds like a regular attack, and plus it rolls 1d6 to stun a target. It would require 10 strength, 5 constitution and 1 skill point to unlock. The players do not need to pay money to unlock skills, just have to have the relevant attributes and a skill point. Then general active skills, these are like scavenging skills. Crafting skills, they can craft items. Social skills, bartering of course. Intimidation, can use strength and constitution instead of enemy social. So if you barter with someone, you need to use your social skills. Hey Frankie, welcome. Yeah, it is just everything that's like I cannot show this while I'm doing the session, so it's very frustrating to not be able to do that, but there is just no simple way. I'll have to upload this to Discord, and then each character actually, according to their class, has their own special skills. So you can take a look. In this case, the warrior priest can use auras. So these two first skills are auras. Then he would do, he can do a smite, which is his only ranged attack, because warrior priest cannot actually use ranged weapons. Then he has blessed body, which is like a passive skill, +1, +5 permanent hit points, and then he has Holy Sigmar bless this ravaged body. Once per day, can roll sanity check. On success, he restores 1d3 HP and AP. It's pretty good. I actually added this last skill after the last session, so each player has the option to unlock a skill right away. Give a little flavor to each character. And yeah, then they have their own notes, so they can add things that they encounter in the world, like what they plan to do in next session and everything. So if they increase an attribute, you need to take a look at attribute point guide. So this would tell you what happens when you increase a relevant attribute. This example, if you get each point in strength, it will give you +1 accuracy. So not only if you had 1 free skill point, you would not only spend it to upgrade the strength, but then you would need to go and physically add +1 accuracy as well. Each stat actually affects different things. Constitution affects hit points. For each 5 points in Constitution, he gets +1 additional hit point, and for each point he gets +1. So the more Constitution he has, it adds more and more. Dexterity is what you use for extra AP, so for each 4 points in Dexterity, you would get +1 action point. And each point in Dexterity gets +1 initiative and +1 accuracy. Willpower is giving Sanity, and then for each 10 points in Willpower, it will give you +1 attribute point. For Charisma, it gives Social, and on each 5 points in Charisma, it gives +1 Social and +1 Initiative. There are also racial traits, so for example, a roommate has picked a halfling character, so he has +4 Initiative and +1 Dexterity from the start, but he does suffer a -2 hit points penalty, while humans get just flat buff, +2 HP and 1 Social, although they are not as good stats as Dexterity. So this is a guide to know what to allocate points into, so if you level up, it's a good idea to have this up. When you do that, then we have the basic rules, so this explains the basic mechanics. Probably a good idea to read through that as well. So before seeing if you inflict any damage on the enemy, you will need to roll hit action, which takes into account your accuracy, Accuracy is also calculated as defense against rolls to hit on your character. Line of sight on maps during daytime is, I'll need to actually adjust this because I increased it after last session. People actually didn't like the reduced line of sight, so. And nighttime is a specific thing. No need to mention that we have 2 torches now to affect that. So line of sight on maps during daytime is 45 feet base. On maps that take place during night. Characters do share vision, oh they don't, so that is a mistake. Have it like that, and then we have each attack action takes 2 AP, regardless if it's ranged or melee. Each successive attack action during the same turn costs +1 AP as fatigue. For example, first attack costs 2 AP, second attack during the same turn would cost 3 AP, third one would cost 4 AP, etc. Ranged weapons need to be reloaded after firing a single shot, unless specifically mentioned by the weapon as magazine. Generally, reloading black powder based weapons and crossbows takes 2 AP, while bows require 1 AP to reload. Each successive reload action during the same turn costs +1 AP as a fatigue penalty. When a character is in melee range, it can fire its weapon, but reload action is impossible. Characters can use grapple action to try and subdue a foe. First, one needs to roll on to hit. If it's a success, you will need to use rope to take enemy as a prisoner. This costs 1 AP. Perform. If you do not wish to take the character prisoner, subdued characters will be stunned for one turn instead. The only available healing item action while engaged in melee adjacent to enemy unit is the healing drop. It is often an unreliable item. To heal injuries, player needs to apply bandage action, costing 1 AP. Each successive bandage action during the same turn costs +1 AP. For healing outside of combat, the best option initially is using healing bombs, which restore more hit points. Upon reaching 0 hit points, it's not all over yet. You will have to roll on Death's Door table to see what happens. If you survive, you'll need to regain full hit points again before any temporary debuffs go away. If you fall to 0 HP again, while Death's Door is still lingering, you will be killed. Sanity check can happen even outside of combat, but is guided by the same rules. When rolling for sanity, it factors in a dice roll plus your attribute of sanity that is compared to another dice roll. If the result is 0 or negative, you will need to roll for mental breakdown. If your sanity is 0, you will have to roll for insanity. Yeah, the scripts are here, so these are the macros, so this is how everything works. I can show you dexterity check, for example. So select that token name if you click on your character and then you roll. It will take into account his dexterity plus 1d30, and that's the roll. And then I will roll a target for him. So in this case he would succeed in the dexterity action, the dexterity skill check. And some of the actions are actually more complicated, like for example if you are rolling to hit, or melee, or ranged, grapple, everything. So this is how it works. And the story is not scripted. You need to actually physically tell it. So combat is one thing, but outside of combat it's about storytelling. So that's why some of the things might be like I cannot really focus on chat while I'm having a session, because it's basically impossible, and people will be like the players would be very annoyed if I did that as well, because it's wasting a lot of time. Okay, so taken care of. Let's take a look at some other stuff. So for example, if you take a look at the looting table, so this is a list of the items they can get from tier 1 loot, like a bandit or whatever. If he's dead, they could loot him to get something out of these items, and it will be rolled randomly. Take a look through the list. It's like 80 items on it. Sometimes it will be nothing, sometimes it will be something bad, sometimes it will be just resources or even gold and then items. And sometimes when they scavenge through the camp, I actually physically say that they see something like a sack inside the tent, and then in it I would tell them a specific thing they found. So sometimes I will tell them or write in the chat what they add to inventory. And not only players have their own inventories, like we saw Death's Head has his inventory set up, but other items actually go into shared items. So that would be, for example, this. Shared items, healing, food, ammunition. So they have their party, like gold that is shared amongst them. They can keep some gold on them separately, but if they want, they can keep it in the stash as well. Then they have the travel rations, which are shared, healing draughts, basic arrows, powder and shot, lockpick, bandages, healing bombs, basic torches, strong torches, raw meat, berries, pickaxes, all the utility tools. Then we have the resources. So these are the different scrap items: wood scraps, scrap iron, cloth scraps, animal hide, animal fat, coal, oil, black powder, whetstone, rope, sulfur, luxuries, rare plants and healing plants, and quest items. Then we can take a look at basic crafting guide. Yeah, should probably do that. So this is how you get more items. So you can use the resources you get to make some other stuff. For example, if you find healing herbs, you can actually combine them with some raw plant-based food into healing draughts. So you can craft basic arrows, basic shot and powder, travel rations, basic torches, strong torches. Camping in the wilderness costs 6 wood scraps. Basic gear improvements, needs functioning workbench, which means they need to be in town to commit this. Repair tattered apparel, cloth or leather, 2 animal skins plus 2 cloth scraps equals 1 item is restored plus 1 armor. And it will remove the rugged prefix from a clothing item. They can repair metal armor, so that would be chainmail or plate mail. Will be 1 oil, 3 iron scraps, and it will restore the armor by 1. Improve a weapon, melee weapons only, 1 whetstone, 4 iron scraps, and it will give it plus 1 weapon strength. New string, bows and crossbows, 1 oil, 2 wood scraps, 2 cloth, it will restore a ranged weapon. And new barrel is for black powder ranged weapons, it will cost 1 oil, 4 iron scraps to get improved stat. And then they can craft healing items, so basically healing items. Healing bomb, 1 animal fat, 1 healing plants is 1d2 healing bombs crafted, so there is an element of randomness to it. Bandages, 2 cloth scraps or piece of cloth or leather armor to scrap into 1 bandage. And healing draught, 1 healing plants plus 1 raw food into 1d3 healing draughts. And advanced recipes, black powder, sulfur and coal equals 1 black powder. We take a look at Baron's inventory. He actually has, in his main hand, he has chipped short sword, plus 2 weapon strength, so he could repair that in town if he has a whetstone and 4 pieces of scrap iron. And then he has fouled flintlock pistol, which gets plus 5 range capability, which is range damage. It has a range of 25 feet. And he could remove the prefix of fouled by repairing it, and it would cost 1 oil and 4 iron. And would go up to plus 6. And the range itself is actually calculated. You can bring up a ruler. So this is this tool, and you can see how far something is. So this would be 25 feet. This is the range of the pistol. You can do waypoints with the ruler as well. Some other weapons, like for example the bow, actually has slightly higher range than the pistol. Just quickly set this to how it was initially, and we can actually show off how the healing is done. Let's remove this bandit. And its head is at 6 out of 10 HP, so you would need to heal. It's a good idea for players to have healing items enabled on their bar here, so they don't have to click on it individually, but I don't use them, so I don't have them there. And then he could use healing palm, for example, so it would roll, and he would restore 6 HP. So he would go up to 10. They cannot get over their max amount, of course. So that's how it works, and if they take turns, they actually can, if there is no combat or the enemies are distant, they can actually use each tile costs 1 action point to traverse. So he's dead here, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, so he would be having 1 point left. And how you actually modify it quickly is you click on this bubble, and then you can type it in instead of going here and typing it in here. Then in town, they can actually get into the shops, and it will be here. Schaffberg shops. So this is an alchemist. He buys items, he sells items, all the different things you can do for gold. And some characters will also give quests, and the quests are at the top. Some of them are active, some of them they didn't find out yet. You can show off a blacksmith, for example. So the blacksmith actually sells utility items as well. So these are pretty useful. They can offer +1 yield to any action like extracting ore from a deposit or gathering herbs in wilderness. So that's pretty good if you want to craft a lot of healing items. The healing plants are actually quite rare, so good idea to get as many of them as possible. But it costs quite a bit of initial investment to get that sort of item. He sells different kinds of weapons, melee weapons, ranged weapons, shields, armor. And he can buy from you iron ore or iron ingots. These are used for crafting, but none of the characters have blacksmithing skill yet, so there is no mechanic for it just yet. But it will be pretty simple to set up. And then there is the tavern, where they are able to heal some sanity damage. So, for example, they can gamble. So that's one option, or they could pay the innkeeper for some services. You like have a drink or have a meal. Or there is a jester, so you could pay him to listen to a poem, to restore some sanity, but it's costing money, so you need to juggle that. And then they actually have the report, so this is the outrider, right? So each time the outrider arrives from Altdorf, they will need to fill in a report what happened. So last time they filled it in, so now they are waiting on the result. They requested some healing items. There's a favor with Cult of Sigmar, so each time they perform a task that is actually relevant, they can report it back and they will get some favor. And each time an outrider comes, it will also give them some salary. Can increase party renown for 5 favor. and that would give them plus 15 salary and plus 1 renown. So they can send back confiscated contraband, and they could send back reports on happenings, or they could request items from the list down here. Then there are some other things that you can do in the village, and that would be, for example, brawling with the guards. So they could try to grapple with the guards to get some prize money if they win. Or they could pay for training, which will also reduce their HP. And HP does heal when they sleep, but only by a little bit. It's not a full heal. So HP is a permanent concern. If you take any damage at any point, you'll need to heal it. You can take a look at some of the maps. This was the first one that they went through. I'll not show it entirely because they were not in the cave yet. But this was the bandit camp. This was the shack. They burned everything. You can see they burned the wagon, they burned the shack, they burned the bandit camp. But there is still a place left. So there are also plants all around the maps, or like healing plants over here, some berries or stuff like that. But if they do not find them and they clear the map of enemies, I'll actually allow them to scavenge the map for the extra resources they missed, because it doesn't feel fair, because the maps can be quite large, and in RP it's a different thing than when you are playing a basic RPG game. You are not going to go everywhere, because it would take insane amount of time to move everyone. Take a look at the village. Hey, geez, welcome. Okay. So let's take a look at the village. So this is where they went. They went straight in and to the tavern, and then they went to meet the count, and then to the marketplace and some relevant shops, and that's it. Then they went back to the tavern and show the tavern as well. The tavern actually is split up into 2 different levels. So there is dynamic line of sight, so if a character moves around, you actually reveal things that are there. Obviously they should not move through walls. So this is how the tavern looks like, and then there is the upper floor. So if they went up, there would be rooms they could rent, and there is also barracks. So the barracks itself has an indoor area as well. They have the barracks area, then there is the armory, and on the upper level there would be the office of the commander, and then some warehouses, or a warehouse rather. There are all sorts of different maps. I'm not sure if any of the players are actually here. I shouldn't show off everything. So this is the travel map. So they arrived from here. So if they want to move around the map, they'll need to spend time to travel around. And it's bad to be out during the night. So that's why we have that. And moving through a road would actually cost less action points than moving through the wilderness. And on the map itself there are various points of interest that they can investigate as well. What do you use for map creation? I use Dungeon Painter Studio. It's on Steam. It's not great because sometimes it will lag heavily when you, for example, when I was placing down everything in the village. It was actually insane how long it took for everything to move, because when you paint stuff it's going to lag hard. So that's why this lower part is not actually that well developed, unfortunately. Because unfortunately it would take insane amount of time to even paint a single square. It's like 20 seconds. but most of the stuff I actually tried to make it look nice. You can see the blacksmith, the farms, chickens and cows, and refugee camp, palisade. I shouldn't show off everything, there is some secret stuff in the village as well. There are also guards and the cow. I think since the players are not here, I can actually show you an example of an area map. Let's go into the Gallows Hill map. So this is the night time. So at night time, their view range is reduced and they need to use a torch to have this. Otherwise they would be restricted to 5 feet range, like sight range. And this is a night map, so it's gonna be pretty dangerous. And there are gonna be undead. So there is an apprentice necromancer and a bunch of Zeds. So you can summon more, he has abilities. Take a look at the necromancer. Also added some props as well. Let's take a look. Apprentice necromancer, so he has some basic story, he has the abilities. So you could raise dead for 6 AP. And the zombies actually are quite dangerous. They have high HP pools, while they are not very nimble or armored. But if they can grapple you actually. So if the zombie is grappling you, it can then you will not be able to do anything else other than try to break free from its grip. And if you fail that and the zombie takes its turn while you are grappled, it will actually start to eat you alive, so that's pretty bad because the damage ignores some armor. It does not ignore all armor, but it can get pretty bad if you get surrounded. Yeah, it took insane amount of time. There are different kinds of undead units as well. Ghouls and direwolves, zombies, necromancer, yeah, everything. So this is the Gallows Hill map. There is also caves, so if they venture into a cave, it will actually restrict the line of sight, so this is not something they would see. The around area, which is not developed. And then there are ore deposits as well in the caves usually, so you can mine some sulfur or iron if you have the pickaxe. So that's basically how it works. Not sure if you have any questions, if anything was unclear. These are the NPC characters, these are the enemies we have. I'm not showing them off because I have some secret stuff set up there. And yeah, they can also salvage items for various resources. And for the quests, it's actually split between main quests and then the side quests, as it's usual. And when you complete a quest, it will be moved into resolved quests category. You like it? Yeah, it's pretty cool. I tried to mix and match all the different mechanics from different RPG games, as well as a general Warhammer feel. So I think it will actually work out pretty well. Should be fun, I hope. I think the first session was actually pretty good. But as I said, it was actually bad that I didn't have the time to react to chat at all, because it was very confusing for you guys. But now you hopefully will have some insight, so even if you rewatch the first session, it will actually, like, you will understand what's going on more. So for some items, like for example the alchemist is actually selling some amulets and whatnot, and each of these actually costs a gemstone as well, and gems are pretty rare. So you could buy a single gemstone from the general store, but it's on limited offer, so one is left in stock. It will cost 180 to buy it. But there are some quests that would allow you to get some gemstones. And at some point, when the story actually advances, we will have the village mechanic as well. Which means the players will have to take care of the village, so there will be different stats for how many people are in the village, what they are doing, and etc. And they cannot allow it to steamroll out of control. And then we have the event cards for it, so I would deal cards, so if I choose them. So we have cards for everything. So this one would be a rain, so food production in the village would be halved. Then you would have a plague card, so that each day 3 cards would be played from the deck. The plague actually is it not saying it? Should be saying a tooltip. That's a roll 1d12, how many peasants die. Then we have the desertion, so some militia would run off. Then we would have an attack, and then just a general peace, so nothing bad happens. I'll add more once we actually approach a point where we will want the mechanic. This actually needs to be moved into the map layer. So now you should know how it actually looks like. From the stream it might not have been too apparent. So let me quickly take a look at something. Yeah, I think this is gonna be it for the explaining part of this. But we could stream something. I haven't streamed something regular in quite a while. So we could do, I think, we could play some Loop Hero. So if you want, you can tune back in a few seconds. I'll just have to end the stream here because I want to split this into 2 parts. So the tutorial for understanding the RP is separate from the stream.